Good afternoon. Some of you have been wondering, will I ever make a video on academic writing? Because many of you know that I have worked in a university teaching academic writing for the last 12 years. Today seems a good moment to do that because it's September. Many of you are going back to school or university and you're going to have to write an essay. And I know from experience, students often panic when they get their first essay title and either can't think about how to write it or forget how to write it. So in this video, I am going to show you, not tell you, I'm going to show you how to write an essay in 10 simple steps. I'm showing you because I found in the past that telling some students is not what they need. What they need is someone to actually go through the steps, go through the process bit by bit and say, this is how I would do it. So in this video, I am going to show you how I would do it. And if you're not interested in essay writing, there's something for you too, because there will be some language points from time to time during the video. And today I am going to tell you my favorite free language-based website on the internet ever. It's just a fantastic website for anyone who wants to learn English more. In fact, it's really good if you do speak English. It's got some phrases on there you would never have thought of. And by the way, I'm not being paid to promote it. I just think it's a great website. That's going to come up later in the video. You probably guessed I have not planned this video at all. What I want to do in this video is to give you an example of if you knocked on my door and said, Rupert, I don't know how to write this essay. Can you help me? If that was you, I want to give you an example of what I would tell you. So this is not pre-planned. All I have is an example essay title. I'm not going to cut this video at all. So if anything goes wrong, I'm just going to keep going with it to give you as natural as an experience as possible. Anyway, enough of me talking. Let's begin. So how to write an essay in 10 simple steps. Okay, step one might surprise you. Step one is do not even think about the essay title at all in the beginning. The very first thing you must do is read the instructions. That might sound like just completely common sense, but honestly, in my experience, maybe you've had bad experiences with this too, I find that most marks on essays are lost at the very beginning before a student has written anything because they didn't read the instructions. It is always heartbreaking when I read an essay that is actually a really, really good essay with good English, good evidence, good structure, but it's not followed the instructions. The person who wrote the essay just saw the title and just started writing without reading the instructions. So please, 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 first thing you do, give yourself 15 minutes to read any instructions you have for your essay. Read them thoroughly and make sure there's nothing in there that makes you go, oh, I wasn't expecting that. And if anything's not clear in the instructions, that's the time to speak to your tutor. So number one, read the instructions. Once you've done that, we're ready for number two, and now we can start getting into the essay. But again, in fact, there's many, many steps that we're going to go through before you write anything. Step two is analyze the essay title. We need to have a really good understanding of what you do when you get an essay title. So the essay title we have is Justify the Need for Homework in Schools. So what is this essay title asking us to do? When you get an essay title, you need to do three things. You need to look for the instruction word or instruction words. you need to look for the main topic word, and you need to look for any restrictions on the topic. And let me explain one by one what I mean. So first of all, the instruction word tells you the general approach that you need to take with the essay. And in this essay, the instruction word is justify. And now we're going to go to my first language teaching part of this video. So we need to know what the instruction word means. Now, there are lots and lots of different instruction words that you may come across before you write an essay. And a really good website I find to help you understand what the instruction word means is this one here. It's produced by the Association for Learning Development in Higher Education. And if you go down the page, you will come to a table that lists some common question words or instruction words. Really, that means the same thing. The instruction words are on the left. So we have account for, analyse, argue, balance, be critical, clarify, on and on and on. And these are all words that you'll normally find in an essay title or essay question. And then the explanation of what these words mean is on the right. Let's go and find the word justify so we can find out what we need to do if we're writing an essay that has the word justify in it. So here we are. So justify is show adequate grounds for decisions, a particular view or conclusions, and answer main objectives likely to be made to them. What does adequate grounds for decisions mean? This means, is there enough information for us to decide, yes, this is correct? And also we need to be aware of any objections, anything people might say that opposes the statement as well. But our main focus is on proving that the statement is correct. So if we go back to our title, justify the need for homework in schools, we need to give information that proves the need for homework in schools is correct. So that's our main focus of when we're writing the essay. So that's the instruction word. Number two, we need to find the main topic word. And the main topic word here is homework. So the focus of our essay is the word homework, work that you do at home, in schools or any educational setting. And then we need to identify the restrictions. This is a part that students often miss. So what are the restrictions here? Well, firstly, the need for. So we're looking at, is homework necessary? Do you have to do it? Is it important? Words such as those. And then the other restriction is schools. So we're only talking about homework that happens in a school setting, not anywhere else. Now, in this particular essay, when we look into homework, it's very likely it's going to relate to schools. But there are other times where you'll get a restriction word that really does limit what you should be investigating. For example, if this essay question had said, for homework in schools in the UK, then I must not investigate any other country. I must not look at France or Ghana, Nigeria, Brazil, Afghanistan, India, Lebanon, Turkey. I won't name every country in the world, but you're all included. I must not name any other country. I must just focus on the UK. So now I'm starting to get a picture of the information that I must collect for this essay. It must be information that tries to prove or disprove the idea that homework in schools is important. That's my limits. So when I get to researching for information, I don't do anything else. If I come across anything else, it's disregarded. That's step 2. Now, step 3, we're still not writing anything. Step 3 is we need to go and find the evidence, and there's a few bits involved here. So firstly, we need to find good information. So if you're at a school, college, university, you will very likely have your own library, or you'll have an online library, and that's the first place that you would go to. Your teacher may also have resources for you. But of course, these days we also have the internet. So I'm going to do a quick search for myself. As I said, I have not pre-planned this, so I don't know what's going to come up. But this is what I would do if a student was in front of me in my office. So if a student said, I don't know how to find information on this title, well, I would sit them down and I would do a search on the internet and I would look for answers. So there you go. I've typed in justify the need for homework in schools into the search bar. That doesn't always work. I'll come back to that in a moment. But I think for this question, there'll be enough information to help us. So let's look at the first link and open it up. I think I'm going to open this in a new tab so that it all displays properly on your screen there. Okay, so this is written by Nord Anglia Education, and it's about why is homework important, and it's got a long list of the benefits of homework. So already I'm thinking this kind of information is going to be relevant to my topic. It's about homework, it's about why it's important, and we've got a few points here. Before I go any further though, you need to be actively doing something else while you search. As soon as you get to any website, library book, or anything at all that could be evidence for your essay, you need to be thinking about these questions. Firstly, does it fit the title? Which this one I think clearly does. Secondly, who wrote the article? And why are they a credible source? So I need to analyse who Nord Anglia Education actually are. They look like an educational institution, which is a good start because they'll probably be more credible than some other sources. It's written in a professional way, but if I go all the way to the bottom of the page, then I'll probably find out who they are. So about Nord Anglia, and again, I'm just showing you exactly as I would do it if you were in front of me. So we see here they call themselves the world's leading premier international schools organisation. So they seem like a fairly professional group. I still would like a bit more information about them. I don't just want to take their word or their promise that they are a certified education institution, but it looks fairly good. It's clearly a real company with real experience. They're based throughout the world. It looks fairly professional. So I would say I'm fairly confident that this will be a useful source. I introduce this because sometimes students will go to Facebook, Wikipedia, social media, even TikTok, and find their information there. And that information is not as suitable for an academic essay. Why? Because anyone can write it. The information might still be true, but we need to get our information from people who are professionals, who are recognised as being experts or that have some knowledge, that have evidence behind them. So I think this source is probably fairly good, but I have one problem with it. And that's my next check that I'm thinking about when I look at sources. And that is, do they have any evidence for what they're saying? And if I go back to the page I was on before about homework, let me see. Is there any evidence at all for what they're saying? There's lots of opinion here, but do they back up their opinion with any evidence or data? And I'm just scrolling through it quickly And to be honest, I think the answer is no. They don't have any supporting evidence. What do I mean by supporting evidence? Well, evidence from professional or academic research, maybe some statistics that demonstrate the usefulness of their points. That would be the best kind of evidence I can find. They don't provide anything here. It's not that I'm not saying I can't use this source in my essay, but I don't want to just use sources like this. If I want to get the top marks for my essay, I really want to find some statistics, some evidence, something that has proof. I don't want to rely on people's opinions. And particularly I'm thinking a school, where a school wants to encourage their children to do homework. So it's in their interest to say something good about homework. While I agree that homework is good, I want to do more. In my essay, I want to prove that homework really is important through some statistics. So this source is useful. I'm going to take a couple of points from it. So they mention discipline. And I'm going to write my source immediately, because another big mistake that sometimes students make is they write notes, they don't copy the source down, and then when they finish the essay, they need to tell the tutor or the marker who their sources are, and they've forgotten, and they have to find it all over again. So make sure you write your source down as you are going along. So discipline is one point they make. Let's take one more point. Time management skills. There we are. Now, when you do this, you need to do this for several hours. I'm sure you do not want to watch me doing this for several hours. So I'm just going to look at one more source and then I'm going to stop. But when you do it, you need to spend several hours doing this. So let's try and find one more source on the benefits of homework. I'm going to see if there's any evidence that will help me in any of these links. Now, I'm not sure if any of this is going to give me any evidence. So let's add another word to my search, and let's write down the word research. Here we are. So here we have, now this is a blog, but it says it's got some research. So I am going to click on it, and I'm hoping it will give me the link to that I can go to where the research comes from. So here we are, So the benefits of homework. Researchers have examined the homework habits of nearly 8,000 students. This sounds good. So I'm hoping that this link will take me to that evidence. Okay, and here we are. It's going to be difficult for you to read on the screen, but it talks about adolescents' homework performance in mathematics and science. Let me try and make this a little bit bigger. And often when you look at these research papers, it's important to remember that they always start with an abstract, and the abstract is like a summary of the whole paper. So if you just look at this first paragraph, you can quickly get the main points and just take those for your essay. If you're just writing a short essay, you don't need to have lots and lots and lots and lots of statistics. You don't necessarily need to read every single research paper on the topic. Sometimes just reading the abstract and getting the main information from there is enough. But sometimes you should also go through a few research papers in more detail to get a more thorough understanding. Okay, so I'm going to quickly go through this and see if I can find anything that's useful here and show you. So they looked at 7,725 Spanish adolescents. Mean age was 13.78, so around 14 years old. They deleted students who did little to no homework, purged the sample of the students who did little to no homework. And then the last bit of the abstract should tell me their findings. I don't yet know if it's going to be positive or negative. I'm still looking through it. Okay, I'm just going to pick on this statement here. The optimum duration of homework was found to be 1 hour a day. I wonder how much homework you have to do if you're at school and university. Is it more than 1 hour a day? If you're researching this properly, you'll probably need to look at some more research. Maybe there's some research that comes up with different figures, but 1 hour a day seems a reasonable amount, doesn't it? So I'm going to add this here. I'm also going to put a star next to it, and I'll tell you why I've written that star in a moment. And I need to get the reference, which is the authors of the study and the year it was written. So it looks like I've got what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take the reference of the journal itself, because that's all I want for now. If I've got that information, then I can come back later and find all of the reference material I need. Right, why have I written a star here? It's because I copied and pasted. This star is a reminder to me that these words are not my own words. When you write an essay, you need to include the ideas of other people, but you need to write it in your own words. So when I come to write my essay and include this point, I need to change the language without changing the meaning. So that asterisk is just a little reminder to me of that. Okay, so why did I take this particular piece of information? Well, it's because it's given me an idea that 1 hour of homework a day was the best thing possible for the students. 1 hour was better than 2 hours, and 1 hour, I'm assuming, was better than no hours. So this in its own way is giving us proof of the title. It's based on statistics, based on research, it's the best evidence of all. Now there's one more thing I'm thinking about when I'm looking at research I have not mentioned yet, and that is, when was it written? With some subjects, it doesn't matter how far back you go in the past, everything is still relevant. But with other topics, such as one common topic students study these days is online marketing, with those topics, you need to be really careful with the date that things are written, because things change. For example, if you take some research on online marketing from 20 years ago, it's probably out of date and it will not be useful in your essay. In this case, the research I'm looking at about homework was 2015. I think that's going to be recent enough. There's a little bit of a judgment that you have to make yourself about how old an article can be before you use it. I think for most topics that don't generally change, I think in the last 20 years is going to be acceptable. I think whether homework is beneficial or not is something that's not really going to change. So I think going back 20 years will be fine in terms of research for something like this. But anyway, over the course of a few hours, you need to build up a number of points like these points. And you just need to get as much information as you can. First, go to your university library. See if your teacher has given you any guidance on which sources to use. And then you can also use the internet if you're allowed to, and just search more generally, but remembering the principles I mentioned. Who wrote it? Are they credible? When did they write it? Have they got any evidence? One further problem that comes up is students tell me, I search using the essay title words, but I still can't find anything. In that case, I will do a new search with similar words. How do I get similar words to the title? I look for something called synonyms. And this is how I would do it for the word homework. So I type in homework into the internet and I type in synonym, synonym. And here we have a number of other words which are similar. I'm going to use a different one. I'm not too keen on this particular thesaurus. Let's try this again. Let's try this one. 11 synonyms of the word homework. So we have schoolwork, assignment. The other ones are probably not so relevant. So when you look for synonyms, you're looking for similar meaning words. When you do that, you'll get a whole list of words on the internet. Some are relevant, some are not. But if you are struggling to find information based on the word given to you in the essay title, check the synonyms. There might be some other words you can use in your search terms. And here I think schoolwork and assignment would also give me relevant answers for what I need to do. So that's step 3. Step 3, we are compiling evidence for our essay. And now we can move on to step 4, which is organise the evidence. So at this point, we go back through all of the evidence that we found through our search, and we look for patterns. We look for groups of information. If we find information that's similar, we put it together. And eventually, what you should find is you've got different groupings of information. And these are going to become your paragraphs, which will be step 5. But let's stick on step 4 for a moment, because you also need to think analytically about the information you've got now. Look at your sources, look at your information, look at your evidence. Which bits of evidence come up the most times? If they keep coming up, they're likely to be a key point. So, as I said, group them together. Which bits of evidence have the most strength? And these are probably going to be the ones that have some evidence or statistics from research. If you have something that has evidence from research, you've got a strong argument or a strong point. Points are also made stronger if, like I said before, they're repeated and you find them in many places. So you need to work out which arguments are stronger. Also, which arguments seem to be against your main idea. You also need to group those. And then you need to think, does the evidence in favour of my essay aim, does the evidence in favour outweigh the evidence against it? Or is there a reason why the evidence against it is wrong or can be disregarded? So there's a number of analytical steps to do here while you're organising your evidence. And eventually what you should come up with is subgroups. Maybe if you're writing an essay that's for and against, you'll come up with a few groups that are for, and you might come up with 1 or 2 groups that are against. If you're not writing a for and against essay, it's slightly different. You need to find a logical process. With most essay types, there's normally more than one way of organising your information. But what your tutor is looking for is, do you have the ability to organise logically? Does it make sense the order you put things in? Does it make sense the points that you say are the strongest? Does it make sense the reason why you've rejected points that are opposing your idea? So that is organise your evidence. And then point 5 is make your paragraphs based upon these themes. So here, what you need to do is make a little plan. So point 1 will be, so I'm just doing this, I'm just imagining what it might be. So here, main point A, let's say that we do find lots of information on homework being good to train in discipline. So maybe that could be my point 1. And then my subpoints will be source 1, source 2, source 3, as many as I need. And then main point B, well, let's imagine that length of homework is another main point, that what people found was a certain length of homework was optimal. And let's go with this source 1, which was 1 hour per day. And then we'll have supporting sources, or sources that say something slightly different. And if they don't all say the same thing, then perhaps a concluding remark that sums up, a concluding comment that sums up what you think these sources say about that main point. You don't always have to have a conclusion to a paragraph if it's obvious what the paragraph's about, but sometimes it's useful just to make it absolutely clear what you mean here. And then do the same until you've got through all of your main points. And of course, the word limit will be a restriction on how many main points you can include. And then finally, point 6 is the bit where you finally start writing the essay. You've gone through points 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 without writing the essay at all. When I was 18 and I arrived at university and I got an essay question, I used to see the essay question and I used to just start writing. And it was in pen in those days, so I couldn't cross it out. And I would start with the first word and I'd get halfway through and think, what's my supporting information for this? What's my supporting information for that? And it was completely the wrong way to do it. You need to know what your evidence is and what your main points are before you can start writing. Otherwise, you might find that you have to completely change your mind 2/3 of the way through the essay. So anyway, this is the point where you start writing your paragraphs. So you use your plan. So number 1, main point A, discipline, that's going to become a paragraph all about discipline. And you put your source 1, source 2, source 3, concluding comment if you need it. You turn those into sentences. And this is the point where I'm going to tell you about my favourite free language website in the world. Because another problem that students come across at this point is, what language do I use to introduce my points? What language do I use to connect my points? What is the correct language for essays? And I found it doesn't matter if you are a native speaker of English or a non-native speaker of English. Students still have this problem. And there is an amazing website. Everyone needs to know what this website is because it has lots of suggestions about how to do it. And the reason why it's different is because it deals not just with words, but with phrases. Let me take you to it. It is, and I'm hoping it's still here, it's the Academic Phrase Bank produced by the University of Manchester. Bookmark it, write it down. Don't forget what it is. I'm just praying they don't take this website away because at the moment it is free. So let me show you how to use it. Go into the Academic Phrase Bank. You can download the whole thing by PDF, but if you go to the 3 lines at the top, you can go straight to the relevant sections. So I'm going to go to this one. We haven't quite got to introductions yet, but I'm going to go to referring to sources because this will be more relevant for writing your main paragraphs. And if you go down the page, you see a list of subheadings. And if you click on them, they give you example phrases to use in your work. So if you're thinking, how do I introduce literature that I have found on a particular topic? Well, you could start like this. The literature on homework has highlighted several points, several viewpoints. You carry on with the rest. This just gives you the start of the sentence. Or if you found there are differences between what people say on, let's take our first point, discipline in homework. You could use this. Different theories exist in literature regarding the importance of homework for creating discipline. And it's got phrases after phrases on just everything imaginable. So if you're looking at research that's to do with history, here are some phrases you can use for that. and so on and so on. This is really good for essays. It's really good for dissertations or report writing. But it's just got a huge amount of phrases and ways of writing. And it's so good because often when learners of English are trying to learn vocabulary, they learn it word by word. But when you're writing an essay, you don't just need words. You need to know phrases. This is the best thing I've found. If you are a student who has to write an essay, make sure, if you don't do anything else after this video, make sure you copy the reference to this website and keep it, put it in your pocket. You can even write it on your arm. You need this website. It doesn't matter if you're an English speaker or not an English speaker. You need this website. Okay, so point 6 was to write the paragraphs of the essay. And I mean by this the main body paragraphs. Not the first paragraph, not the last paragraph, the paragraphs in the middle, because the paragraphs in the middle are the ones with the information that proves your point. Point 7 is write your conclusion. Go through your main body, decide what were the main points that you found on the topic, and in particular, what were the points that prove that your title is correct. So going back to the beginning, think about your title again. Justify the need for homework in schools. Get to the end of all your main body paragraphs and then think, which information in particular proves this? Don't choose them all. Just choose the best ones, or the ones that seem to have the most focus, because the conclusion is trying to quickly demonstrate that either the title is right, or if it's a different type of title, it's simply trying to demonstrate that you've answered the title, whatever that title is. And then finally, point 8. At last, point 8 is write your introduction. So I've gone through 7 stages before I've written the first section that will appear in the essay. Very unlike me as an 18-year-old who wrote the introduction first. No. Write the introduction after you've written the main body and the conclusion. Why? Because the purpose of the introduction is to prepare the reader for your main body and conclusion. If you write the introduction first, you might then find that you write the main body in a different way and it doesn't match up. And one thing that will really help you get a good mark in your essay is if your marker can see that everything connects, everything matches up all the way through your essay. So that's point 8. Point 9 is the bibliography. I haven't said anything about how to write citations in the essay, simply because I'm aware this video is already quite long and much longer than some of the other videos I've done. And I think that needs a whole other video on writing citations. But at this point, you need to check that your essay shows the reader where you've got your information from. And there are 2 places to do this. First, at the point where you write your information in your essay, and remember, it must be in your own words, at that point, you need to write who the author of that information is, or are, if it's more than one, and also when the information was written, and put it in brackets. That's the most common reference style. You always check what your referencing style is with your tutor before you write an essay, just in case it's different, but it's normally like that. There's usually some other requirements to do with punctuation that can differ. But essentially what we're looking for is you tell us where you got your information from. If you don't, it looks like you made it up. You've got to tell us where the information comes from. That's the first place you tell us. And then at the end of the essay, the second place is the bibliography. And there you list all of the sources that you've used in the essay. Do not write references in the bibliography that don't appear in your essay unless you've been told to do that. That is not the right thing to do. And finally, point 10. And if I was to say, where do I think most marks get lost on an essay? I would say it's point 1, read the instructions, but it's also point 10, check your work. This is the absolutely most important thing to do apart from point 1. You can gain 5 to 10%, maybe even more if you do this. Because when you check your work, you're going to find mistakes. And if you find mistakes and can correct them, you can start lifting your mark up. If you've written a point in your essay, but the grammar's wrong and the tutor doesn't understand it, they can't give you any marks for it. But if you check it, you find the grammar mistake, you're the one who knows what you meant, so you can correct it. You must check your work. So I always advise students, if you have a deadline for Friday, finish the work by Wednesday. Then, on Wednesday, forget all about it. Go and do something nice. Do something completely different. And then Thursday, check your work. And it's important to leave that gap between finishing your essay and checking it. Because there's something about the human brain that if you read something you're familiar with, you predict what you're going to read and you don't actually read it properly. But if you leave a day and then check after a day, you start to forget what you've written, it becomes more fresh, and then you spot the mistakes more easily. So do not miss out point 10. Check your work. There you go. That's the end of my tutorial. I've given you a lot longer than I would have done if you were a student in my office, but that's okay. If this has been useful for you, then it's well worth it. So I hope that's been useful for you today. Let me quickly run through those steps again. Number 1, read the instructions. Number 2, analyze the title. Number 3, find evidence. Number 4, organize the evidence. Number 5, make paragraphs logically based upon your themes or subtopics. Number 6, write the main body paragraphs. 7, write the conclusion. 8, write the introduction. 9, bibliography and references. And 10, check your work. Good luck with your essay writing this year.